Hi there, good evening. I've just finished another video and then I can't remember whether they've done a video about this incident, so I'd really like to talk about it because it's not a subject that we tend to discuss and tend to talk about, but it is happening all around us all the time. I'm sorry that it's evening time, it's getting night, it's getting dark, I haven't got much light here. I could probably move my car and go somewhere else, but never mind, you know what I look like, really, don't you by now? You've seen enough videos of mine. Okay, so first, before I start, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, please comment below, let me know how I'm doing, let me know if there's anything you'd like me to talk about. Racism in the 21st century, in 21st century Britain, where it's a dynamic, different, there's so many different cultures, so many different religions, so many different languages, so many different people, you cannot get away from different race, different religion, different color, different language, it is everywhere. And yet I went to do an interpreting session at St Mary's Hospital in Corsham and in Portsmouth rather, and I was racially attacked by 3 patients and then 3 other members of staff who were very indifferent, who clearly were annoyed with me, who thought I was creating a ruckus and making a big deal out of nothing, who did not support me and the other Bengali lady that was there being attacked, who did nothing to stop the abuse happening, no bystander intervention. If anything, they fueled the fire and added to it and made them feel like we were at fault, not them, which is completely way out of order. So I had gone to St Mary's Hospital to do an interpreting session. My client hadn't turned up, and apologise if I'm repeating myself because I don't remember if I've already done this. I don't think I have because I've been so busy, I don't think I've had time, but if I have, then I apologise. So I was at St Mary's Hospital in Portsmouth. I'd gone to do an interpreting session for a Bengali client who had then cancelled his appointment and they hadn't rebooked me. So I went to sit outside in the waiting room where I knew there was already a Bengali lady sat there because I'd mixed my appointments up and thought it was her to begin with. So I went and sat down next to her and we were chatting in Bengali and there was some English in there and stuff, and we were just chatting about all sorts. Suddenly this white lady in front of me, she got really annoyed because the lady that I was sat next to wasn't booked in, even though she'd been sat there for 2 hours fasting for a blood test. The receptionist said her name wasn't on the list and was rebooking her or sending her to Corsham Hospital or sending her to the PAL service in Block A when we were in Block C. And I turned around to defend this lady and say, well, that's not good enough because this lady has been fasting, she has been waiting for 2 hours, she's got proof that she made the appointment. It's the mistake on the admin and the staff side, not the patient. A blood test takes 2 minutes because I've worked in GP surgeries. Anybody can train up as a health assistant or a phlebotomist. It doesn't take much training, you just need to stick a needle in people and know where to stick the needle and how to get the blood out. So, I said to her, well, I know how it works. This is kind of like my day job, advocating for BAM communities, advocating for people, making sure people aren't taken advantage or discriminated against. So we'll make sure you get your blood test today. We won't go until you've done it. And then I sort of said about the meetings that we've been having locally, about the surveys and the feedback that they've been getting from the council and the government have been getting from people is that depending on your socio-economic status, your colour, your race, your postcode, so many different factors affect how you are treated by other people and whether you're taken seriously, whether you're listened to, whether you're validated. So I happen to say that if you're a white male and you're a professional, you're in a suit and you look really official, you're going to be taken really seriously. If you're of colour, it's going to be less. If you're a female, it's going to be less. If you live in a certain place, it'll be less. Depending on your job, it'll be less. So at the right at the bottom is the Black and ethnic minority community who don't speak the language, who don't have great jobs, who don't have much money, who live in not very good areas, and from the postcode they can tell where you live. And if you are a person of colour from an ethnic minority, black or ethnic minority community, you are not likely to be listened to, you are not likely to be heard or taken seriously, you are not likely to have your grievances addressed or, anything like that. And you will be fobbed off, you will be treated differently and treated worse than everybody else. The lady in front of me, who was white, so she's non-Asian, non-coloured, with mousy brown hair, turns around and says, are you for real? What are you talking? Listen to what you're saying. I was like, but they've done the surveys, it's not me saying it, this is what's come out. And she turned around and she said, if you don't like the NHS, if you don't like this country, why are you here for? Go back to where you came from. Why are you speaking a different language? You shouldn't be speaking a different language. You should be speaking English. The man in front of her turns around and says, I'm a white man. What are you trying to say? You know, you shouldn't be talking in here, you shouldn't be speaking so loudly, you shouldn't be discussing personal stuff about your partner or whoever else or whatever else you're saying. They were sort of saying, oh, go somewhere else, you should be talking about here. And they were contradicting themselves, because the man said that he didn't want to hear what I had to say and I was talking about things personally. The lady was taking offence to the fact that I was speaking a different language, but if I was speaking a different language, they couldn't hear what I was saying. But if they can't hear what I'm saying, then that's offensive, because they can't hear what I'm saying. But I'm not allowed to be there, I should be somewhere else. But then, you know, but then I turned around and I said, but I'm born here, where do you want me to go? And it's okay to speak a different language. It's okay to be different. It's okay to talk about whatever I want to talk about, because it's a free world. I can talk about anything I want to talk about. I can give my opinion on anything I want to, as long as I'm not hurting anyone, abusing anyone, taking advantage, or inciting hatred. I can talk about whatever I want. Talking about what's in the news, talking about what's in the media, about current affairs, about a meeting that I've only just attended a few days ago with NHS staff, with the members of the community, and this is what came up. And then she said, oh, if you don't like the NHS, I said, but I love the NHS. I work for the NHS. I work with the NHS. I've worked with the NHS for about 20 years now. I'm here because I'm working with the NHS, because I'm interpreting for the NHS. I wouldn't be here otherwise. You know, I don't even live here. I don't even come to St Mary's Hospital. It was my first visit there. And they were just so horrible and so rude and so derogatory. And the lady's crying and she's shaking and she's having a panic attack. And I'm starting to cry and I'm starting to shake and I'm starting to have a panic attack. And my head is throbbing and I'm going bright red and embarrassed and everything else. The shame, the guilt, everything comes at once. I'm trying to stay strong for the lady. I'm trying not to give in or trying to look like I'm frightened. But I am, because I feel ganged up against. I feel intimidated. I feel like, you know, I could be attacked. Anything could happen. I don't know. But what got to me more than the racist abuse and the attackers and the people that were saying these things was the attitude of the rest of the waiting room, that the bystander effect, when nobody will help, nobody will support, nobody will stand up for you or say anything. Most of them probably agreed with her, because most of them were non-Asians. There was about one Asian person and one European person. Everybody else was white. They all probably thought the same thing and wanted to say the same thing, but they weren't brave enough. And these two people had decided they were going to be brave and say these things to me and to the other lady, and it was just completely out of order and not acceptable behaviour. But the staff, so the receptionist that I was saying to isn't, you know, that this isn't good enough, that, you know, this lady's been waiting, it's not her fault, I need to try and book her in, apparently when I asked for a manager or somebody senior to talk to, she apparently said there's nobody, we can't speak to anybody, that we can go to PALS in desk block A, but we're in block C and the lady can't walk, or we can email the manager, or the lady can come back, or she can go to Cosham Hospital instead, which is about half an hour away. She's on crutches, she can't move, she has mobility issues, she has transport issues, she has language issues, she's fasting, she's got all these different medical health needs, that she isn't able to take any painkillers this morning because she's fasting and she's in pain, and she sat there for 2 hours waiting and nobody's given down. And had I not come along, she probably would have sat there for another 2 hours. They would have finished and packed up and gone, or gone for lunch, and they'd be like, well, sorry, you should have told us sooner. Can't win. But when we got into the phlebotomist was really clear with us. Right, come on then, we've got to get on with this and stuff. And we're sort of saying that we're really upset about this and stuff. And we weren't given any time or any consideration that we've just been racially attacked and we're really shaken. We're both shaken, we're both crying, we're both, you know, really affected by this. Then we had the manager person who came. So I was waiting outside with the manager person, and I said, look, I'd like to report this as a serious incident, and I'd like to report it to the police, and I need your details and stuff. And she didn't want to give her details. She's got nothing to do with this. She's from another department. The receptionist came really upset and really, you know, shaken by apparently my encounter, because I was asking her to do something about this appointment. And then the lady behind me in the cubicle, when I said that my blood pressure's high and I'm going bright red and I'm really shaking and stuff and nearly in tears, the lady in the cubicle behind me came out and started shouting at me, can I just say that I'm having my blood pressure down and my blood pressure is high, so you need to keep it down. So again, 2 more members of staff, the person that's in there with her, whoever it was that was taking her blood pressure, and the manager who stood in front of me. Again, that's fine. That's okay for somebody to shout at me. I'm just saying that I've been racially abused and attacked, and I want to take this further because it's affecting me and it's affecting the lady and it shouldn't have happened. And again, somebody else says something and nobody says anything. Then I say, well, I need to speak to somebody official then, you know, where do I speak to? Where do I lodge this? So they got a security guard to come and speak to us, and who agreed with us that that was wrong, it's not acceptable, and it shouldn't have happened. I gave him my details, and we're walking back to his office, and he says, are you okay to go walk through the waiting room again? And I said, no, because they're all looking at me like I'm a terrorist. I'm anything but a terrorist, and I don't want to be treated like that or, be looked at like that. So we walked round outside, so we didn't have to go to the waiting room. Then the lady who did the original attack, who told us to go back to our country and stop talking in Bengali, and we shouldn't be using the NHS if we didn't like the NHS, then comes out really happy because the manager had said to her, oh, don't worry, I'll be back in a minute to talk to you, because she's the victim in all this, and of course she's been suffering and she's struggling, and it's really difficult for her. Never mind us who've been racially attacked and ganged up against, she's the victim in all this. So she comes out all laughing and smiling, oh, I'll be reporting it to the police, do you want to take my details to the security guard? And I said to the security, yes, please go and take her details, because I will be reporting it to the police, and I will be giving them your details for you to contact them. So you will need the details of this patient. And the security guard's trying to fob me off, saying that, oh, well, we've got CCTV and we'll have records. I said, no, can you actually get her details? Because you're going to faff through, might say you don't have it, you might say this, you might say that, you need to have the details of this particular person because she's the main perpetrator here. You need to know who she is and have her details, because you need to give it to the police. So he took it. I mean, he was sympathetic. I won't say that he wasn't, but even then he was fobbing himself again. No, you're not fobbing me off. But it's just the fact that nobody thought it was wrong. Everybody, and the lady I was defending, she actually said it happens to us all the time. We're discriminated against, we're treated differently, we're, attacked racially, we're not given enough. It's almost like we have to be grateful for getting basic provision that everybody is allowed in the UK, even though we're British citizens, even though we live in this country, even though we've worked in this country, paid our taxes, helped other people. I was top set in every class that I've been in. So in English, in maths, in science, in art, you name it, I've been top set. There were people in my class who didn't want to study, who wanted to just bully me, who would hit me over the head with the lunchbox, who would say horrible things to me, who would take the mick out of me, who'd actually take offence to the fact that I was doing so well at school and that I was such a good pupil, that all the teachers loved me, that they would actually call me boffin and nerd and teacher's pet and laugh at me and mock me. And my whole life at school has been tainted by bullying and harassment and racism and fascism and you name it. And then I'd go home to get some more from my mum and my sisters, where I'd be bullied, humiliated, picked on, hurt, abused, invalidated, told that I'm worthless and useless and not good for anything. But I'd go to school and then my teachers would love me. And I'd get A's and A stars and 100% and top set. And I was the spell bee. And everybody, even at work, anywhere I went to, people would constantly be asking me, how do you spell this? Or even when people don't ask me and someone's like, how do you spell that? And I'm the first one to say it. I know. I was an excellent pupil. I was a gifted child. I could ace any exam. I could ace any subject. I could learn. I don't do anything unless I excel at it. So if there is something that, say, I haven't even tried or I don't think I'll be very good at, for example, swimming or football or something, I just won't do it because, no one's perfect. No one's 100%. You're going to be perfect at everything. Most things that I would give it a go at, I will ace it, because I pick things up so quickly. I have this innate ability to adapt myself, to learn things quickly, to pick up all sorts of information. I soak it up like a sponge, and then I can repeat it. I can write essays, I can do posts, I can advise people, I can help people and support people. So, I have always been amazing at everything I do. Teach myself baking, teach myself sewing, whatever I do, I excel. And I know people are insecure around me. I know people feel jealous around me. I'm a good looking girl. Everywhere I go, people are staring at me. Old, young, white, coloured, black, whatever. I come to Cosham Hospital and on an average, at least 10 people will be staring at me or looking at me or smiling at me and stuff. I'm starting to become more friendly where I don't take offence to it anymore. So if somebody's smiling at me, I'll smile back at them and ask them if they're okay. How's the day going? And I just think it's so much nicer that as long as they don't hurt me, abuse me, take advantage of me, come too close and start touching me or anything like that, and they're respecting my privacy. If they want to look, that's fine. If they want to smile, that's fine. If they want to be friendly, that's fine. They can ask for my number if they want. Doesn't mean I'm going to give it to them, but it's fine. People aren't hurting you if they're looking at you or smiling at you or admiring you. That's fine. But these people who, it comes down to the usual things that you hear in racism is go back to where you came from, you know, why are you in our country, you're taking our jobs. How can I take your job? I'm a multilingual interpreter who speaks Bengali, Hindi and Urdu. I can read Arabic, I can recite Arabic, and I have done GCSEs in Latin and Spanish and Bengali and so many other things. How am I taking your job? Because you can't speak any other language other than English. You can't do my job, so I'm not taking your job. You know, if you can't be bothered to get off your couch, or if you can't be bothered to study, or if you can't be bothered to go for a job, or you can't be bothered to apply for a job, or you can't be bothered to apply yourself, or try, or whatever it is, whatever reason you have, whether you're working, whether you're not, I cannot be taking your job, because if you were better than me, then you'd have that job. I've got that job because I'm better than you, or I've applied for it, or I've put the effort in, or I've put the training in, or if I've learned something, so I can use that and get a job. I'm not taking your job. You just don't want to do the job. But then you want to blame everybody else because you don't want to take responsibility for yourself. You don't want to admit that you're at fault. You don't want to admit that you are not good enough, so you'll make me feel worse for it. That's how bullying works. Bullies are scared little people who maybe have been abused, maybe have been bullied, maybe have been hurt by people at home or close people, and then they go and take the anger and the frustration out on other people. So they blame everyone else for their misfortune. They blame everyone else for the pain and suffering they're suffering with. And then if they see somebody smiling or happy or doing well, they can't bear it. Like, how dare you do well while I'm struggling? How dare you smile while I'm sad? So they will, they will take away that happiness, and that, you know, someone's happy, they'll make you sad. If someone's doing well, they'll beat you up for it. If someone has got friends, they'll try to make you, isolate you. So bullies and abusers are sad cowards who cannot stand up for themselves, who need other people to gear them up, to give them the respect and the admiration, and to, they need a gang. So if they're on their own, they are nothing. They won't attack people. They won't, because they have a gang behind them and they want to beef themselves up and make themselves good and make themselves, seem like really strong and capable and stuff. They will use the mob mentality to control other people, to then do their bidding or to support them in their acts of abuse and things and inflicting it. And they'll pick a weak person, so they'll pick the most weakest person in the group, in the class, and they think, well, you're on your own, you're small, you're tiny, you're timid, you may not have any family supporting you, may not have friends to support you, no one's going to care if you get picked on. And they'll pick on you just for their own pleasure and just to beat themselves up and make themselves feel and look good. If you stand up to a bully and you challenge a bully, they will more than not back down. And that's happened to me actually in a situation where at school, I was in secondary school, I was 12 years old, and for some reason the friends that I was best friends with at middle school were placed in different classes. So I was literally on my own. I can't remember if I was anybody that I knew in the class that I was placed in. I don't think I was. So I was completely isolated. And for some reason, some of my friends actually fell out with me and they didn't like me for some reason. I had no idea what I'd done wrong, why they suddenly decided they didn't like me and why they were just ignoring me, being horrible to me. And suddenly this one girl in that class who was like a class clown, I'd say. She was a class clown, and maybe, she was having a hard time at home and just being abused and bullied and so on, or being bullied at school, I don't know. And she started bullying me, and she would go past and say horrible things, and she'd mock me and laugh at me and stuff. And I think she wanted to get in with these two friends of mine that, she wanted to become friends with them. So because she thought they hated me, she's going to start bullying and pick on me. So she would keep picking at me, and it got worse and worse. And then I thought one day, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. So I remember I was 14, and my elder sister was bullying me and being horrible and mean to me. And I picked up the coffee table and I said, if you don't stop being mean to me, I'm going to throw this coffee table at you. And I did a similar thing at school with this bully. I stood up to her, and I can't remember how I did it or what I did, but I stood up to her and I said, I don't know what I said, I challenged her, and suddenly she's back down, and suddenly she's my best friend, and suddenly we're getting on really well, and she's not actually that scary or mean or anything. Actually, she's just the class clown. She's just nobody, she was somebody who was obviously having a hard time at home, being bullied and picked on, and then needed somebody to let out an opening to pass on that pain that she was suffering with. And because I support and help victims and survivors, I can understand why she did it. And I don't hold resentment against her, because I know that she must have been hurting. That's why she was hurting me. But it kind of proved to me, both those incidents, the one at home and the one at school, that bullies are nobodies. They are just pathetic people. They are just weaklings. They are just wusses. You know, they just want to hurt you and intimidate. And they're counting on that mob to provide them with the security that if anything does happen and people come back and attack them, they have a mob behind them and they have a gang behind them that's going to support them and stand up for them. And they're counting on you staying scared. So they try and intimidate you and put you down and make you feel worthless so that you are too scared to stand up to them. And if you're too scared to stand up to them, then they can do what they like and get away with it. And then they get lots of popularity and their friends think they're amazing and everybody thinks they're amazing and stuff. My phone's about to go. And I've got somebody else staring at me now because he's stuck in traffic right in front of me and he decides he's going to sit there and stare at me, which then makes me really nervous and anxious. And maybe people are wondering, what the hell is she doing in the car? She's just talking to her phone. Like, when you're talking to somebody, like if you're on the phone to somebody, you would not be talking constantly. So when I'm sat here talking to myself, staring at my phone and people are looking at me, A, it makes me nervous and anxious and embarrassed that they're staring at me, and B, they probably think I'm completely crazy and off my trolley and like just talking to myself. And I feel like getting out of my car and saying to him, mate, I'm making a video. And I did the other day. I don't know if I posted it, but I literally said that to two guys, the security guys that were staring at me and laughing and saying silly things. And I just said, what are you doing? I'm trying to make a video here. You know, leave me alone. But it's quite funny. I kind of turned that situation around and made it into a joke and took a selfie with them. So it's fine. I keep doing that. I think I'll just challenge people as to why are you staring at me? And if you want to stare at me, then at least take a selfie then, you know. I don't know. What else do you do when people stare at you? I don't know. I really have to unpick myself and retrain my brain on this, because my first reaction is to panic. Because as a teenager, as a young woman growing up or a child, my mum would beat the crap out of me, or she would humiliate me, or she would punish me, or she would blame it on me. And my exes have done the same. So if somebody's staring at me, it's not because I'm attractive. It's not because they like me or fancy me or think I'm beautiful or whatever. I must have done something to cause them to do that. It's not just because this is me and this is how I look and this is how I talk and this is how I smile and this is how people relate to me and how I relate to other people. It's not anything that I can control or change, because that would be me not being myself. So being myself, it attracts attention. I can literally walk into a room, walk into a hospital, walk into a ward or a clinic or something, and most of the eyes will be on me. There will be 1 out of the 10 maybe that absolutely hate me at first sight because they're jealous and insecure and I'm going to take their man because I'm a man-eater apparently. Or you get, most people will warm to me. Some people might not be sure. Some people will be like, what's she all about? Or she's over the top, or she's overdressed, or she's wearing makeup, or she's wearing jewellery or whatever. But on the whole, 8 out of 10 people will warm to me. The kids will smile at me. The kids will, are looking at me and I'll smile back and they'll smile back. But it's almost like kids have this innate ability to recognise goodness in people and innocence in people because they're innocent themselves. So if you smile at a child and you give them positive attention and you ask them if they're okay, or you play with them or something, they will almost always react and respond positively towards you. And that's why I love children, because I've always been able to connect to children. I've always been able to understand what's wrong with them and why they may be misbehaving or not listening, because I can feel their pain, I can feel the confusion, I can feel why they might be doing that. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine this morning about her children. She said they were a nightmare and her daughter's a little diva and stuff. And it's, there's always a reason. And to me, it's so clear. Like, I can clearly work out, like, if I have 10 minutes with this child, I'll be able to work out why this child's misbehaving, what she wants. I mean, I already have an idea what the problem is. Sometimes parents might not want to hear what you have to say, because 9 times out of 10, children misbehave because of the parents. Parents do not understand or do not know what the child wants. They do not relate with them properly. They pass all their anger and frustration and tiredness and exhaustion and lack of, attention or whatever. We put it all on our child. And when there's so much on one child, they can't deal with it. They're only little people. They're still learning. They're still adapting. They're still taking in the environment, learning the appropriate responses. And they look at us to see how we deal with things. So when we shout and swear and get aggressive with people, our children will copy. And there's an amazing meme that I've seen where, do you say meme or do you say meme? I'd like to have some feedback on that, because there's so many words that I mispronounce, and then when I hear other people pronounce it, it's like, oh, I got that wrong. So yeah, so LS, you know, what is that? Primark, you know, that would be good actually to get some feedback on what you think about how you pronounce the different words, because I pronounce them wrong and I'd like to learn the right way. And is there a right way of pronouncing things? Is it up to you how you pronounce things? I don't know. So yeah, please comment below and let me know about that, because I'd really like to know what everybody calls LS, LSE, or Primark or Primark, or whatever. God, I'm getting sidetracked. So children learn, and the meme that I was going to tell you about is there's an adult shouting and screaming, and there's a child behind them shouting and screaming and copying their behaviour. There's an adult having road rage in the road and shouting at somebody. There's a child sat next to them doing the same thing. You know, whatever we do, we pass on to our children. We're teaching our children how to behave, how to talk, how to react, how to respond, how to express our feelings and our emotions and our anger and our frustrations. So if we do not show or set a good example for our children, we cannot then blame our children when they react in the same ways that we do. And 9 times out of 10, what I've noticed with my children is, if my children are misbehaving, or they're shouting, or they're swearing, or they're hitting each other, or they're putting each other down, I have to ask myself, did I do that? Have they just seen that from me? Have I done something that's made them think that's okay to do? Because children will almost always want to please us, and they will almost always copy what they see. So it's the saying about do as I say and not as I do. So when we set an example for our children, whatever we do, our children will copy that. So we can't say to our children, don't shout, if we shout. We can't say to our children, don't swear, if we're swearing. We can't, you know, if we hit, we can't say to our child, don't hit, because we're hitting. So whatever we do, our children will be observing, will be listening, will be taking it all in and processing it, and then they will behave in that way. That will become their baseline, their go-to behavior or whatever. So when they're angry, when they can't think straight, they will behave in that way. So it's always about setting an example for our children. And if our children are little divas, or our children are little monsters, or our children don't want to listen, or they're shouting, or they're misbehaving, or throwing tantrums, we have to ask ourselves, where did we go wrong, and what example did we show our children? And if that is them copying us, then we can't blame them, because until we show them and model to them and teach them and explain to them that we don't do this kind of behaviour, or we don't do that kind of behaviour, or mummy was tired or upset or hurt, so that's why she did this, and it's, you know, that wasn't the right way for mummy to respond like that, I need to do it better next time. Or 9 times out of 10, I found that if a child is throwing a tantrum, or, you know, getting angry or lashing out, they just want a hug. So if you just go and give your child a hug, show them unconditional love, that you don't just love them if they behave in a certain way, you love them regardless of how they're behaving, you love them regardless of if they're having a bad day, you love them even when they're having a tantrum or a temper fit or too tired to do something. Then I've noticed with my sons as well, the younger two, when they're tired, when they're exhausted, when they're upset, when they're struggling, that's when the behaviour gets worse. So it is because they just need a hug. They need me to understand that they're having a bad day, or they're upset, or they're tired, or they didn't get enough sleep. And it's just about seeing their needs through their own eyes and what they need, not what I think they need, or not what's good for me, or not how it suits me, like because I need to be out the door in 10 minutes. Yeah, obviously you're running late for appointments, you're running late for school, you're running late for clubs or whatever, you need to get out the door. But sometimes if you just spend that 1 minute, 2 minutes extra just explaining to them, giving them a hug, it will actually save you a lot of time in the long run. And the more you teach them and the more you role model in a positive way, the easier and the better and the quicker it will get in the future. So take a step back, think, right, how am I dealing with this? How am I going to handle it? What am I going to say to my child? And what am I going to do and show and teach my child at this particular point? Is this the best way to do it? Is this how I want my child to react? If this was me, how would I want somebody else to react to me? How would I want somebody else to relate to me? You know, would I want them to shout and scream and swear at me, or blame me, or guilt trip me, or put me down and humiliate me and hurt me? Or would I want someone to stop and explain to me and take some time and let me know that they cared, and it didn't matter what I did or what I said, that they will still care for me and they will still be there for me, and I can still rely and depend on them. Because if we can't be there for our children when they're little, they will not come to us when they're big. We have to show them right from the start that we care about them, we love them unconditionally, it doesn't matter whether they do well, whether they succeed, whether they fail, whether they win, whether they, you know, can perform, whether they can do it as well as we want them, as well as we expect them to. We have to love them anyway, unconditionally, and that's what we have to portray to them and make sure they understand that. I'm going to sign out now. I'm getting a sore throat talking too much. Have an amazing evening, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to join my support group, and I will speak to you soon. People are staring at me thinking, what am I doing? There's a guy across the parking plot sitting there watching. I think other people going past wondering what I'm doing, talking to myself. So I'm looking a bit mad here, but that's fine. I've stopped caring about what other people think. I've told my narcissistic ex that it makes no difference to me. People can think I'm crazy, people can think I'm stupid, people can think that, you know, whatever. I know what I am. I know my worth now. I know my value. I know how amazing I am. I know how much deserving I am of love and respect and affection and everything else. So whatever people think, whatever people do, whatever people say, whatever people want to believe, let them. My life's not going to change. They're not going to pay my bills. They're not going to run my support group. They're not going to do my work for me. They're not going to pick my kids up or feed my kids or wipe their vomit. Let them think what they want. So I'm going to sign out now. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to join my support group. Don't forget to comment below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's anything you need help and support with. You can message me, contact me, join my group, add me on Facebook if you want. I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Stay safe, everybody. Bye.